Welcome to A Mile Deep, and today I am going a mile deep with Mr. or my guru, my original guru, Dax Moy. How you doing, Dax?
There we go. I was
Uh,
doing my own cheering section.
yeah, dude. So for those of you listening in or watching the podcast, Dax is the reason I got into coaching. Dax was the original guru. Like, in my world, honestly, I started in the fitness industry. I worked with Paul Mort for 2 or 3 years, and I got introduced to Dax in one of Paul's events in South Shields, and I had a puncture in my tire, and I had to stay at a I think it was like a traveling or Premier Inn or something, a last minute thing, and Dax was there last minute as well. And we talked over a table for the evening, and Dax shared his wisdom, and I was so inspired and literally just really, really rocked my world. And I remember um, that that was a big pivotal point for me. I was a trainer, and I wanted to become a coach, and I went and did Dax's Guru project, which was a retreat in Thailand where we spent 10 days creating ourselves. Like, honestly, most transformational experience of my life. It was put me on the path, Dax. Honestly, it was amazing, and I remember it was like this moment that I it's when I wanted to become a coach. It was like that was the point where I was like, no, I don't want to be a trainer anymore. I want to become a coach, and that was all thanks to you and the way that you led that experience. So I'm always grateful to you, man. I really have got so much gratitude and love for you, man, and everything that you've done along the way. So thank you for being here today.
Oh, thank you, mate. It's, just to kind of reflect back the love. I think you've done. It's been really really interesting, amazing, and inspiring to watch your transformation over the last few years as well. From the guy who was basically, it was really about fitness. It was really about working out and all the rest of it. Just seeing how. It's not just been one transformation; it's been several transitions. I think your early iteration was in coaching was about helping people build their businesses and all that kind of stuff. And then obviously you still do elements of that, but it's turned into something else. Then it turned into something else again. And now obviously you're kind of digging deeper into what I call the human experience,
Yeah,
which is really what coaching is about. It's about the human experience, and it's about not forgetting that we're humans and not forgetting that we aren't these infallible things that kind of are supposed to show up in the world pre-packaged and ready to go and never make a mistake and never fuck up and never drop a clanger and instead just saying, part of the human experience is there's going to be a lot of mistakes, there's going to be a lot of route changes, there's going to be a lot of hurt both that I've received and I deliver to other people, whether intentionally or not. And all of that is an example to us about kind of, you know, maybe fine tuning ourselves, maybe fine tuning our existence, and maybe helping other people to fine tune theirs. That's for me. That's really, really the essence of coaching: helping people to understand the human experience.
yeah. I am. It was interesting how I even ended up asking you to do this. So I was going. I was on a couple of calls with clients, so I heard this inner critic in so many clients' voices, and became once you hear it, in some clients, it's almost like yes, to a degree, as a coach, you're probably projecting that onto other clients. But I started hearing loads of clients talking really badly to themselves, and like what I worked out is that most people, and this is something that I want you probably to chip in, Dax, and really, because I know that this is why I've brought you on today, is that your wisdom around this is unreal. Is that most people's motivational force or pull that they pull to be motivated from is fear. Like, and it was you actually that introduced me to this distinction that the opposite of love isn't hate. The opposite of love is fear. That you were the one who taught me that. I remember sitting in front of like hundreds of people in the body transformation world who would motivate themselves with fear, lack, scarcity, all that sort of stuff. And I'm seeing the same thing in the leadership world, is that people are showing up in my space and they are burnt out, they are frustrated, they're angry, they are not feeling the best possible, they're not having the best possible human experience because they're still deriving a lot of their motivation from fear. And here's something I think that's happened for me in the last 2 years. I've really shifted from that being my similar motivational source, fear, lack, not enough, scarcity, worry, to a place of love. And I found that it was a weird experience for me. I was like, oh my God, I'm talking about love. I'm talking about love in leadership. And I'm like, I'm creating some talks. So I'm going to be speaking in front of leaders about love. I thought, who is the best person to come on and talk about specifically love as a motivational force in high level leadership? And here you are. So this is why I've brought you on today.
You just froze at the very end. You went, so here you are, and then I had a little freeze. So I don't know how you ended that little part of the conversation. It was probably, Dax, here's 50 grand, have it, and it's all yours.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. No, it's but seriously, I think that you were the first person that started talking about this sort of stuff in my sphere. So could you share, like, what's your experience? Because there's something you've talked about. Because, like, I know that you got your 3 words, that your go-to words that you talked about. I haven't heard you talk about for a while, but it's like truth, joy, and love. And that's how you led. And I remember watching you in Guru Project. You were those 3 words. You literally showed up as those 3 things all the time. And I remember thinking it as a 25-year-old, maybe 24-year-old guy. I was like, that's how I want to be. I want to be a leader who can be loving, who can be funny and have lots of joy, and who is authentic and transparent. And that's who I saw in you. So, yeah, where do you want to start with this?
Um, I guess the best place to start any conversation about love is with a definition of it, right? Like,
Yeah.
if you think about like so many of the challenges and problems that we face in society these days, but both society as in, the society of our families or like of relationships, and then extended society, is lack of definition. Right? Like, if you look on social media today, you see people ripping the shit out of each other over conversations where you kind of, if you read between the lines, you kind of think you're kind of both saying the same thing but arguing over semantics, so arguing over how you're defining something. And so one of the things I learned early on, and you remember back to the Guru Project, where kind of the first, ostensibly the Guru Project was about helping coaches to build a business, and it's a 10-day program, but 5 days of that we don't even talk about business. 5 days of that we're talking about values and beliefs and fears and all this kind of stuff, right? And during that phase, we were digging deep into, okay, so what do you mean by that? Like, don't just say a word, throw it out there, and claim that kind of you've got it pegged and that everybody else should understand it. Don't just talk about love. Like, my definition of love might be different to your definition, right? And my experience of love might be different to yours. So it's really important that if we are gonna have conversations about anything, that we, even if you don't agree with my definition, whenever I say something, you go, I don't agree with Dax's definition there, but given what he's already told me he means by this, let me close this up. A pop-up just come up. Given what he's told me he means by this, I can understand his framework. So the first thing, my framework for love is acceptance, connection, and care. Acceptance, connection, and care, right? Which ties in brilliantly, like the part of your brain. There are several places, but the primary part of your brain that would be most closely related to the concept that we call love is the anterior cingulate cortex. Okay, so the anterior cingulate cortex is the home of love. It's also the home of pain, both physical and emotional pain, right? So that there's a big hint there as well, right? Why we feel so much around kind of things that are love and hate based, right? So, but it also ties in very, very nicely, because I'm really good at this kind of thing, with the anterior cingulate cortex, ACC, is acceptance, connection, and care, right? So that's kind of it. It all ties together brilliantly. Acceptance, connection, and care. Acceptance is not the same as toleration, and it's not the same as agreement, right? You may have a completely different worldview to me, and it might be even anathema to what I believe. You might be so far out, like, whoa, like, this guy's a neo-Nazi, racist, bigot, homophobe. Like, that's not any of my stuff. But I can still accept that that's your framework, and I can accept that that's what you believe, and I can accept that life up to this point has led you to believe in those things. I can still accept it. I don't have to agree with it, right? So that's phase one. Phase one of love. Connection. Connection is a a sense of alignment in some way, shape, or form over something, right? And again, like kind of, I flip back to the neo-Nazi, homophobic, misogynist, right? I can still connect over the fact that somebody is having their life experience. I connect over, this is a person trying to get through life, and this is the best way they know how at the moment, and this is what they've been shown, and all the rest of it. And finally, care. Care isn't a word. Care isn't what we see on the internet where people get offended and upset on behalf of other people. Care is the demonstrable application that someone's experience is important to you.
Whoa.
Okay, their experience is
Yeah,
important.
yeah.
It's demonstrable. It's not a bunch of words, right? Sitting here saying how bad something is in the world and they should do something about that isn't an example of care. That's an example of you've become aware of something, but you don't really care until you do something about it. So acceptance, connection, and care. You can't really give true acceptance, connection, and care to other people until you're giving it to yourself first, right?
Oh
So
my
it kind of
God.
moves in. It moves in a cycle, and you can kind of think about it as kind of self, and then social, and then systems, right? Acceptance, connection, and care for myself. Oh, hold on. Maybe I don't love, using that as a definition, maybe I don't love myself as much as I say I do, or as much as possibly I ought to if I were being skillful about my approach to life, because I shut myself down every time I go to open my mouth because I'm fearful of what social media might say. I'm fearful about what my boss might say. I'm fearful about what my partner might say, right? So I don't accept myself. But if I don't
Yeah,
accept myself, I'm not,
actually,
I can't love myself.
I just stop you a second there. Actually, just I'm having a flashback. It's just I remember on Guru Project, and I had like a real visceral experience with this. So Dax, I can't. You might remember the exercise and how you did it specifically, but it was like a speed dating line, and we had to line up opposite the other person, and we had to say these lovely things about ourselves. I'm actually tearing up a little bit even thinking about it because it was
I
such
remember
a
it. I remember
oh
it. Yeah.
fuck, honestly, right? So I hope I'm not giving away your magic here, Dax. But it was like okay, so there was a two moments. I'll share a different one actually after this. Is like we had to say lovely things about ourselves, about what we thought about ourselves, and we had to big ourselves up to someone else in front of us. And I remember it being so. I'm a very confident person. I've always been very confident, but fuck, honestly, I really struggled to stand there and say lovely things about myself with power to someone else in front of me in a very safe space. And I was like, holy shit. I remember getting back to my hotel room afterwards and I was like really like shook up because I realized I'd never really accepted that part of myself. That was a really big thing. You might remember the exercise.
Yeah. 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 It was like part of the stipulation there was that it must be true, even if it felt awkward, right? Like you couldn't just say I am the best in the world at X, right? If you didn't really believe it, but you had to go through the process of actually telling us the truth about how awesome you are in certain
Yeah.
areas of your life, right?
Yeah, it was.
And it's a really difficult thing for a lot of people.
And there was another one. There's another part. There's like so. It's like I call Dax magic. We're all sat around in a circle on the beach, and Dax, whether it was like you just got in this state, and you just like, how dare you, um, refuse to say the things to yourself that you want other people to say in so many words. I remember you got really angry in a state of like, how dare you expect, and you just like really like, and I remember just thinking that, and it stuck with me so much. It's like there's so many nice things that I wanted to hear from other people that I just wasn't saying to myself, and you standing there and on the beach and like just really bringing, um, what would be the word? It's like intentionality to the way that you were speaking to us. And I was like, yeah, fuck, I'm wanting to hear all this nice stuff said about me, but I never say it to myself. I'm always coming from lack. And thinking back now, it was probably that was the start of my self-love journey, really, like looking back to Guru actually like that. Because like up until that point, I an elite athlete and nothing was good enough, never fast enough, never good enough. And that was the part for me where it really started to change.
Yeah, it's such an important awareness to come to, right? Whether you use my definition or not, but it's such an important awareness to come to that seeking externally for acceptance, connection, and care is a fool's game. It's
Mm.
you're always in someone's eyes. You're always going to be underperforming. In someone's eyes, you're always going to be kind of letting someone down, or not as good as you think you. All of that kind of stuff, right? In someone's eyes, and in many respects, we all want to impress other people. We all want to be kind of connected to other people, but it starts with how we connect and accept and care for ourselves, right? And most people have done very little around that. They shrug off compliments, like that was actually part of the how dare you as well, right? Like, how dare you? Someone has actually given you a gift of a compliment, and what you've just said is, like, I sit here and I say to you, mate, you are absolutely incredible at X. And you go, oh no, it's nothing really. I'm like, well, hold on, because that cost me something. That cost me in our relationship. That cost me something to kind of voice that and open up to that and kind of to give you that compliment. And what you just said is, Dax, your opinion isn't worth shit. It doesn't
No.
count,
Oh.
right?
Oh.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
it
yeah.
doesn't. We have to get better at accepting compliments, right? Particularly if someone's coming from a sincere place, right? For me, it's really really important. I don't go through life giving people insincere compliments. Even my wife, sometimes she'll put on a certain outfit or whatever, and she'll say to me, how does this look? And I'll say, oh, it kind of makes you look a bit frumpy, and you look a bit right. And other people around us, if they hear that, they'll go, oh, I can't believe he said that. I was like, but my wife says he's the only one I actually trust because he tells me. And now, bear in mind that if my wife really loves something, she'll still wear it anyway, but she'll thank me for my opinion on it. She'll go, I asked
Yeah.
you, you told me the truth about what you think about it, right? But she can trust me. And we have to get to that point where we can start to trust. Like, if someone offers me a compliment, I'm going to accept it as real, because to not do that is to basically train the person in front of me to stop complimenting me. And
Yeah.
then I'm going to go through life saying, no one ever sees the good and the value in me. No one ever sees how hard I work. No one ever sees how much effort I put in. No one ever sees how much of an impact I'm making. And yeah, because you train them not to by telling them, it doesn't really matter. Like, your
Oh,
opinion of me doesn't really matter.
that's so
Right?
true, and
So
that's so, yeah. You see that all the time. Is like people actually refusing. Like even on the 10x tribe, one of the ladies there, she's got the best. She's a skin expert. She's got the best skin out there. Really, honestly, radiates so much. Really, she really looks like, when you see her, her skin is radiant. And it gave her a compliment, and she's like, shut it down. And anyway, she's getting a weekly compliment right now to deal with.
right. So here's the thing. There's a little addendum to that. If people are complimenting you and you're not comfortable just fully accepting them yet, it's a bit like training, right? You don't just jump straight under a 100 kilo bar. You kind of,
Mm.
if you've not been doing it, it's really hard to just jump straight into, oh yeah, thank you so much. I'm amazing, thank you, right? But you can interact with a compliment. You can say, that's really really kind of you to say, Ben. What made you say that? What was how did, in another way of putting it, how do you validate that compliment? You said I'm an amazing coach. What is it about my coaching that you find amazing, right? And now you're leading someone into what I said at the start. You're leading someone into a definition. It's not a random word like, oh, he's an amazing coach. It's like, okay, cool. You called me amazing. That's fantastic. Thank you. What about my coaching was amazing in your experience? And now you tell me, and I go, this is a real compliment now, because he's had to think about it. It's not a throwaway word,
Yeah, I think
right?
that's something that you've always been really good at doing. I think like I got a lot from you in that, like especially in my map. Like when you would go, like you go what I would say a mile deep into words. Like that is something that you've always done really, really well. And and I think slowing down to a lot of these things is what's made your coaching so profound for me, and like understanding like how you get. So going back to like, I want to just bring it back to like love is a motivational force, because this is my opinion, Dax, and this is something that I want to, if someone's listening to this podcast and they are a leader, how do they notice that they've not been creating their life through love, and they've been creating it through fear and all that sort of stuff? Like, what would you be saying? Like, what's the first waypoint? So actually, yeah, I can see that this is how I'm creating my leadership in my life, and how can they start to make that change? Does that make sense as a question?
Yeah, yeah. I think the first part is like, if you think about acceptance, connection, and care, and then you think about you come from you look at the kind of the antonyms, the opposites of that, right? You go, okay, acceptance. Well, what's the opposite of that? Rejection. Okay, am I doing something here because I'm kind of accepting myself and I'm accepting the value of what I'm putting out there, or am I trying to avoid being rejected? Am I trying to avoid being forgotten? Am I trying to avoid being seen as of lesser value than I actually am? Right. And so, that's one place. Connection. Am I doing this because I want to stand out? Like, kind of. There's nothing wrong with standing out, but am I doing it because I want to stand out, or am I doing it because I want to stand with or stand for? Right. I want to stand with people. I want to stand for something, right? And then care. Am I doing this as a means to demonstrate the importance of the people that I've created this product, this service, this idea, this art, this whatever, for this relationship? Am I doing it in service to that because I want to demonstrate that how important they are, or am I doing it because I want to demonstrate how important I am?
Oh my
Right.
God, yeah, that's
So
such a good point. Yeah,
right?
because
And so when you look at that, you can see whether you're coming from a place of fear or whether you're coming from a place of love. Like, it's fairly simple from that perspective, really.
yeah, that's so profound. Because like even like Robbins talked about that as like the opposite of contribution. Is it significance? What's the opposite of significance? It's significance and connection, or so. I can't remember. Anyway, it's like one plays off the other, right?
Yeah,
And
I can't remember the specific definition you're talking about, but absolutely, yeah,
yeah, yeah. So like if you strive for significance, you cannibalize connection. I think that's
yeah.
the dance. And there's like I think so many people out there they're trying so hard for significance, they are actually truly not getting connected. Oh my gosh, yeah, that's really profound. And like the thing I noticed that was a really big like a big canary in the mine for this for a lot of leaders especially is that the reason they've got successful because they've been hypercritical, fear driven, and they got to this point in their I'd say 30s, like 30s, maybe 40s, and then they get to this point where they're successful, but everything else after that, they're burnt out, they are disconnected, they're struggling emotionally. It's like that is when the shift needs to happen. Like that's kind of what happens. I think that people, especially come into my coaching arena experience, is that they've tried motivating themselves with criticism, with fear. How do they go about making that shift in your opinion?
Well, again, let's go back to a definition before we jump into that, right? By the definition I use, and again, I'm very, very clear. My definitions don't have to be anybody else's, right? But by the definitions that I use, those people aren't necessarily successful. They're accomplished, right?
Oh,
They've accomplished things, right? We've all accomplished things, though, right? If if you're if you look at it as being successful, you would be saying because of this, that, right? Because success is that which follows, right? So you've got process leads to success, right? Success literally from the Latin kind of sucedere kind of means that which follows. That which follows an input. It's the output, right? So most people have become accomplished in something, but they haven't become successful truly. And that's why my career, like over the last quarter of a century, it's mad, right? Over a quarter of a century, I've been a coach. Makes you sound like you knew me when I didn't have any grade. Um, I've worked with world leaders, like literally royalty, members of the British cabinet, kind of Fortune 500 CEOs, rock stars, pop stars, polar explorers, A-list actors, and all the rest of it. Some of the air quotes most successful people in the world, yeah, and many of them depressed, overwhelmed, um, really, really bad relationships within their families. To put it in a nutshell, these are very accomplished people, but they're not successful and they don't feel it. And that's why some of those people feel like topping themselves. They feel like suicidal. I mean, there've been people that have even attempted it over the years. Out of people that I've worked with before they came to me. And it makes sense. Not suicide makes sense, but their despair makes sense because for the likes of you and I that are still sort of like, we've done well for ourselves, we're climbing the ladder, right? And you've always got that next thing to look forward to. You go, yeah, but when I publish my next book or run my next course or get to the next zero on my income or whatever it is, right? When I get there, we've always got that kind of little bit of hope, that little bit of a story in our minds about when we get to that level with that rung of the ladder, life's going to be so much better than it is on this rung. Now imagine you're a person who's got millions, mega millions, even billions, and a country's wealth at your disposal, and you still don't feel enough, right? Imagine the despair of going, I have everything and I still don't feel enough. I have everything and my life still feels like it's in tatters. I have everything and so many parts of my life are still shit. I'm on my fourth marriage. My kids don't speak to me. And it might be health issues. It might be mental health issues. It might be drugs. It might be any number of things. That's what leads to despair, because when you're climbing the ladder, you have hope. When you're at the top of the ladder by everyone else's estimation, and you don't feel the way you would hope to feel, and life isn't what you had always dreamed it was going to be, you become hopeless. Despair kicks.
Oh my god! Yeah.
Right.
I've
This
worked
comes
out
down
with my
to,
clients. Yeah.
and it's a love issue again, is acceptance, connection, and care. Along the way, in order to pursue accomplishment, what they were calling success, they basically gave up their connection, their acceptance, connection, and care of lots of things. They go, I know I really should be more into my family and my wife or my partner or my whatever, right? But if I do that, if I spend more time with the kids, then that book's not going to get written, or that movie's not going to get filmed, or that career's not going to climb as high, or my, or like, okay, no, I can do that, but it's going to come at the cost of my health, right? And if I do look after my health, that's another 2 hours a day where I don't have for writing the book or doing the thing, or right. It's accomplishment at the cost of true success.
I love how you frame that as a love issue. I've never even seen that as a love issue, but when you look at it through that lens, you can actually see it as like, yeah, I can see really clearly how that is a like accomplishment, connection, and care. That you've got rid of those things that, and maybe on the flip side, the people that have climbed the ladder and have nurtured those things along the way feel successful.
And they may not even be up as many rungs of the ladder, right?
Yeah.
They might be 10 rungs down and they're going, life feels pretty fucking amazing to me, right? And the people that are 10 rungs up are going, is this it? Is this what I've traded the days of my life in for? This, right?
Yeah.
And it's if you'd shown yourself acceptance, connection, and care along the way, you'd have said that your health and your relationships and your kind of your sense of self and your need for rest and recovery and kind of recuperation from overwhelm and everything else, you would have recognized that all of that was as important as the accomplishments. But because we didn't truly accept the need for ourselves, what we said was, no, just keep going, just keep going, right? Kind of we didn't put our connections with ourselves and with other people as a priority, and we didn't really demonstrate care. We said, what I really care about is the thing that I'm pursuing. It becomes a bit like predator and prey, right? You're hunting down the one thing, but at the cost of everything else. And it is like that, right? If you think about predatory animals, right? During the pursuit of that gazelle, the lion is not looking around it to see what other people are doing or what the other kind of wolves or lions or anything else are doing around it. It's like, I'm going to get that one thing, right? But it may have missed 10 opportunities to eat along the way, right? Yeah. It may have missed not may have, it has missed loads of other opportunities because it has to, in the pursuit of the prey, the predator becomes hyper focused on the one thing.
So how do you operationalize this? Like, so at the moment we're kind of talking in like in the definition and the understanding of it. Like, if you were to say to someone who's like, say, listening to this, and they've realized that They've been creating their life from a place of fear. They've been climbing the ladder, but not paying attention to acceptance, connection, and care. How would you help that person start to cultivate those three things?
Well, first off, through the definition of those words for themselves, right? Because I've given you my definitions, right? But helping people to understand, like, what does your success look like? And success always has an element of happiness to it, right? So what does happy mean to you? And then as we get to happy, there's a really important distinction between deep happy and shallow happy, right? Which most people completely ignore. And I think it's a reason why a big chunk of society these days is the way it is. The reason why so much of society seems to have slid down this semi-pathological path, right? So a lot of people have become extremely hypnotized and hyper-focused on shallow happy. And shallow happy is what is going to give me what I want right now, what is going to remove a stress right now, what is going to kind of lead to me having something, right? Like, so let's look at we both started out as PTs, so let's look at a body transformation. Shallow happy is, I really like, I know I said I really want to get in great shape and I want to do this and I want to do that and I want a bigger chest and bigger arms and I want to run faster. I know all of that, but the lads are going out on the piss this weekend and they're doing a whole bunch of stuff. It was never in my plan, but shallow happy means that I'm going to go and pursue that instead, right? I'm going to jump off. Deep happy is looking toward the future, not looking to what you want to do or what you want to have. It's looking to who you want to be in the future. Who do I want to be, right? Shallow happy is about what do I want to do or what do I want to have, right? So we've all heard, if you've been around self-development for long enough, you know the be, do, and have kind of cycle, right? Yeah. Well, deep happy is always about be. Who do I want to be? Shallow happy is always about what do I want to have. It doesn't mean that there can't be depth to that. Like, there's stuff I want to have, and there's stuff I want to do in my life, right? But actually, as you start to lean into this, you go, actually, I'm gonna have and do those things as a result of who I be.
Yeah, when I first heard the being stuff, I really didn't, like, honestly, I noticed it was it was somewhere I needed to work personally, because I found it kind of like annoying. I was like, why do people keep talking about being? Like, being. And I heard this being a lot, and I'm still working on this, but I think it's a part of coaching, is like, you get, and the way I understand it, you give two people the same plan, and that it's actually that the person who is going to have the success is the person who is being the successful person, and they see themselves as that person, so they go and create the success. Whereas someone who is being a victim or excuse maker is going to find a way to make or cannibalize that plan. And that is that the difference?
Yes, I mean it's part of it, but for me, being is a bit deeper than that. Deeper, I don't know if deeper is the right word, but look, being is about definition again, right? It comes back to definition. We are either the person that we said we would be, right, or the person we always hoped to be, or we're not, right? There's a nice little black and white to that. I wanted to show up in the world as truthful, joyful, and loving, right? They're my definitions and my values of how I want to show up in the world, right? I'm not that all the time. I snapped at my wife this morning over something, right? That wasn't me being loving. That was me I was a bit kind of angry and frustrated about something.
Maybe a bit of truth there, though. A bit of truth.
Yeah, right. I was speaking my truth about what I was pissed off about, but I wasn't loving in how I delivered that, right? And there was no joyfulness to it either, right? Now the distinction here, though, is because it's easy remember I started this whole thing by saying about, coaching is about reminding people that they're having a human experience. I was having a human experience this morning. My wife would probably say I was being a bit of a dick. So, and I'd go, yeah, fair enough. I was being a bit of a dick this morning in our first interaction. You didn't deserve that. You didn't need that. But by knowing that I want to be truthful, joyful, and loving, I can measure my performance against those words every single day or every single interaction. I can get off this call. In fact, I will get off this call, and I'll sit there and go, how did I show up? Like, forget what Ben. At the end of this, Ben's going to go, "Oh, it's so awesome having you on. It's always a great pleasure." Right? That's par for the course. When I get off, I need to ask myself: was I who I said I'd be? Was I being truthful? Was I being joyful? Was I being loving, accepting, connecting, caring? Right. So
Yeah.
was I being all of those things? Our job in defining our beingness, if you want to do it, right? Kind of like I'll do the weird air quotesy thing, right? Our beingness. Our job around the beingness is to define ourselves. Nothing more, nothing less. Define it,
Yeah, I
right?
love that. Yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah.
like most of us, we throw words out there, but without any definition. So when I teach this, okay, you want to be truthful, joyful, and loving. Okay, now define what truthful, joyful, and loving means. Okay, I've done that. Now acceptance, connection, and care is part of that, right? Okay, so what is acceptance? What does that look like? What are the words you use to know if you're being accepting? What are the words you use to know if you're being connecting, caring, right? Okay, and now whatever words, like you can keep going down with this, right? You go,
I
now the
remember
words
doing
that I
it.
used to
Yeah.
define those, right? And it becomes like a branching tree of roots like this. But the deeper those roots to go, we all know this, right? The deeper the roots go, the higher the plant goes, right? So most of us are struggling to kind of grow in this direction because we're not laying down enough roots. And the roots are our definitions for ourselves. And the trouble is, like modern society, is not only telling us what words mean, right? They're actually saying, but when we want to use a different word, modern society is telling us that our word is bullshit and you can't have that one, right?
Oh
You
my
can't
God.
you can't
Yeah,
have that
yeah.
word. Like go, and again, I always like to use tangible and somewhat difficult thing because it's easy to kind of hide between little soft words. Like call me a racist. Well, how do I know that I'm not a racist, right? Because you might say, oh yeah, but you said this once. Yeah, I did say that about X race or X sex or X gender or X whatever. However, like here's what I meant and here's what I didn't mean.
Yeah,
Most
I
people
get
don't
that.
have that as a go-to. Most people don't have definitions that protect them. And then, so when you call me a racist, I get really scared and upset and go, God, I can't possibly come across as a racist. I need to now backtrack and change my mind and say things differently to appease to Ben, so his audience doesn't go, yeah, that's why that racist, sexist, homophobic, misogynist, right? Most of us don't have our roots deep enough to protect ourselves against external judgments. And so this is the thing. So you've used the word fear quite a lot, and I'd agree. Like fear is an important part. Most people aren't experiencing fear in the way we like to think about it. Most people are experiencing anxiety, a
Yeah.
negative forward prediction about something that will happen if I X, right? If I put that post up that I'm really planning to put up, I know social media are going to jump all over me, and I'm now going to have to spend my life defending the post that I just put up, or I'm going to get cancelled. Right?
Yeah.
Well, that's anxiety. That's not fear. Fear is in the moment. Anxiety is in the future.
Yeah, I think I remember doing this actually. I remember doing this on a big whiteboard in my room in Thailand. Actually, I remember really because like we did the 3 word exercise, and I think one of my words was happiness. Like happiness is a big word for me at that point in my life. I studied so much on happiness at that point in my life. I remember like it was hard work. It was starting going like, well, actually, what the fuck does this really mean to me? Rather than just this nebulous, oh yeah, happiness. Like, and I remember, I've used it on the podcast before. Sean Aker's got a really nice definition of it. It's like happiness is the joy that we experience striving towards our potential, and like healthy striving for me is joy. And this is where I kind of like I was actually running at home the other day, and I was like, even though I was in a lot of pain and I was suffering, I was in suffer. I was actually having a great time. I was like, I'm in pain, but I'm loving this because I'm actually striving towards my potential. I'm trying to find how far I can push my body. So I was actually simultaneously experiencing quite a burden of pain. And I know you're not, a foreigner to that after doing your training program, which we'll talk about in a bit. But I was actually really enjoying myself. So actually, and just talking about that, so Dax recently, just tell us about Da Vinci. I just think, you need to clarify, obviously, for anyone listening, what that was as well.
Yeah. Okay. So just before that, I not because I can't correct any word that you use, but I can share with you a definition for myself. In my definition, you weren't suffering at all. There, you were struggling. Right.
I was definitely in struggle.
Suffering is really the story we tell ourselves about the struggle. Right. So
Yeah,
you can be doing exactly the same thing. Like I can. So that will lead on to my Da Vinci in a second, but the it's a big important distinction because suffering is very very close, particularly when it's not um, like deeply harmful to us. So if we move ourselves into language around suffering, what we do is we move ourselves into some victim kind of mindset, right? We start
yeah,
pathologizing normal behaviors, right? And like struggle is always cool, I think, right? Most of the time, like struggle is a really good thing. The reason I've got like 18-inch arms and can bench what I bench and I can do all the rest of it that I do is because I've struggled under a bar, but I haven't suffered, right? I haven't suffered under a bar.
No,
Right?
even when I said that, I knew you'd pick up on that because I actually learned that from you. So I was like, I knew that. I was like, it was actually the conversation is like, I think you gave me the book was Rick Hanson's book on, I think it might be in the Buddha's Brain or something. You're like, you read, yeah, and you're like, oh, so when I said suffer, I was like, I know you're gonna pick up on that.
He's gonna get me.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, still know. But yeah, go on. Tell us about Da Vinci. Talk about struggle like that because
Okay.
tell people what it
So
is, and I think it's amazing.
I designed the Da Vinci program about 15 years ago now, and I've only done it myself about 5 or 6 times in that 15 years. It's a very intensive program, and it's designed as a very rapid body transformation kind of program. But it's not just about the physical transformation. It's about teaching your body to be resilient. It's about your body as well as your mind, right? About kind of teaching resilience. Is about seeing difficult things through, but also, a big part of the Da Vinci program is about seeing things through, but with a smile on your face. I'll bring something to that in a second. Um, I was doing 4 training sessions per day. So there'd be a circuit style training session per day. Kind of I'd do like the MARSOC programs or CrossFit type of things. I'd do like a bodybuilding type of session per day, like higher volume, kind of moderate loads, time under tension. I do a cardio type of activity per day, like a 5 or 8K run. I was doing at the same time I was doing Help for Heroes, so it was supposed to be 150 miles in the month of July. Yeah, 150 miles in the month of July, carrying a Bergen rucksack with whatever weight you wanted. And I ended up doing 300 miles in July in 21 days, carrying 45 pounds. And then be another choice there. I'd do like swimming or boxing or kind of any other activity I wanted to do. But it was pretty full on, pretty full on. I did in that month. In that 21 days. I did about 500-600 miles on my feet, from load carries to runs. Kind of hundreds and hundreds of rounds of skipping, tens of kilometers of swimming and all that kind of stuff. It was pretty full on. It was a tough program. It was really, really challenging. I woke up most mornings with when I went to bed and I get up in the morning, or I'll get up in the night to pee, I would basically be hobbling. My feet were in bits, and my knees and my lower back were talking to me, and all the rest of it. And yet every day I put the backpack on. I went to the gym. I did the runs. I jumped in the pool. Like it was. I actually had a really, really good time amongst the pain and amongst the soreness and everything else. And one of the things that I remember, like back in my forces days, running with my Bergen on, I'd be like this real serious kind of mean face, right? Squatty face, running down the street, and then. But what I did on this one, every time I went out for a run, or any time I was in the gym, I'd be running along the beachfront because I was looking around and thinking, I'm in paradise. Like I'm running along some of the most beautiful beaches in the world in beautiful weather. right? And I'm spending all day, every day doing exactly what I want to do, and I'll just be smiling. And the looks of people along the beach, as I'm going, I'd be getting thumbs up, I'd be getting smiles. Ties are really friendly, but it wasn't just coming from the ties; it was coming from the holiday makers and stuff like that. And they got used to seeing me running around, and they'd be like, probably thinking, "Here's that nutter again?" Right?
Yeah, I was gonna say. Yeah.
I had an amazing time, and I was struggling every day, but I didn't suffer once. I didn't suffer at all, right?
Yeah.
But I struggled madly. Like, I'm a big guy. I lost 9 kilos, by the way, in that period. And I lost it. I lost it really, really quick. I lost weight so quick to the point I was really concerned because I've never had flabby skin, right? And I'd lost so much fat that it was like my belly was flabby and like around the edges of my pecs. So I was like, oh crap, am I going to be stuck with flabby skin now? Um, right? But no, it wasn't. It was just that I emptied out fat pockets so quickly that my skin didn't have the time to keep up with it. Right? Um, I had an amazing time. I had an outstanding time, and I went from 109 kilos down to 100. I think I'm sitting at 101 right now, 101.5 or something like that, right? But I
Wow.
went from 109.
Yeah.
I'm a big guy, right? I'm a large man, and I was doing all of that. It wasn't like I'm some like little racing snake kind of 70-kilo dude. I'm like, there's a lot of me to hump around, but I had a really good time. But
Yeah.
I
I
didn't
think
didn't suffer once.
this is like interesting because I think that specifically when I started working with you and when I did it, the retreats and stuff like that, is a lot of what you taught. You must have designed your life like a lot to be able to be in the position you're in now to do that sort of stuff. I know you've always spent a lot of time in Thailand. You've gone for long stretches at a time. You've always like how much have you how much bandwidth or how much what's the word for it attention have you put on life design to be able to go and do that kind of stuff?
Massive, massive. It's huge. People are like I live in a very modest home. It's an ex-local authority property and a normal street. I don't live in some penthousey kind of thing, and I don't live in a gated community. I don't have Lambos parked out front. Over my lifetime, I've earned millions, right? Or over the lifetime of my career, I've earned millions. And I get paid really, really well. And there was a period in my life where the bank account was getting really, really big, but I was almost. It was so. This is the success versus accomplishment thing. I was seeing how big the numbers in my bank account related to my success, and I was measuring myself against that. Right? Okay, it's gone to this, it's gone to that, it's gone to that. I'm like, I'm not doing anything or going anywhere. I'm having the normal holidays that everybody else has, and
Mm.
you've heard me say this before, but and I've written about it numerous times, but I had to sit down and have strong words with myself about the one day when I make it, I will story that I told myself back in the day. We all have it. We all have the one day when I make it, I will. And I realized I'd lied to myself because I wasn't giving myself the experiences that I promised I'd give myself. One day when I make it, I'll go here, I'll do that, I'll go here, I'll go here. My life story was never about the stuff I was ever going to own, really. Right? It was always about the places. It was going to be the mountaintops I stood on. It was going to be the beaches I was on, the forest I walked through, the jungles I went to, right? And basically, in terms of lifestyle design, I've spent a lot of time over the last kind of 20 years spending a lot of my money. I'm wealthy by most people's standards, so I love it. It's really nice. I'm not one of these guys who's got kind of tens of millions in my bank account and kind of resting on my laurels. But for me, the main thing was my one day when I make it a will story is going to be I'll do these things. Like, okay, that's what the money is for. The money
Yeah.
isn't for the bank account, right? As long as I leave money in the bank account, all I'm doing is making banking organizations wealthy. The money in my bank account was supposed to buy me the life I always wanted. And
Yeah.
I think most people are living lives where they're proving themselves to be liars to themselves. And I'm pointing the finger not in an incriminatory way. I'm pointing the finger because the finger pointing started at me. You told yourself a promise that when you did
Yeah.
this, you would do that. When you got this, you'd get that, right? And you haven't bloody done it. And life changes for you when you start keeping your word to yourself. When you start saying, my job in life is not to keep the word to other people. Yeah, we want to be good people. I want to show up. If I agree to do something with you, jump on this call, right? Then I want to be here. I screwed up our last call, didn't I? Right? I was like, oh crap, I
Yeah.
messed it up.
Oh, I do. Yeah,
Um,
I get. Yeah, there's a lot going on, but do you know what? Do you know what's coming up for me, Dax? You're sharing this, right? So you got us to do, this is proving the value of coaching. I remember how much I spent on Guru Project. I remember thinking, oh my god, it's going to be the money I'm spending is just going to be about the 7 days or 10 days when I'm in Thailand, and that's it still serves me even today, right? So anyway, I've created a mastermind recently called the Mile Deep Mastermind. And I was thinking, like, what are some of the best exercises to start with? And I thought to myself, like, perfect day exercise. I've done it multiple times with clients over the years, and I actually went looking for my perfect day exercise, and I've got all the Guru stuff in a folder still. Really, really good. I still steal from you regularly, and it's just like I looked at the perfect day exercise, and I was like, holy shit. I am living my perfect day. I've got a pool across the road. So I've got a 50-meter pool across the road. I'm in a hot country. I go to the beach regularly with my kids. I spend all the morning doing what I want to do. So don't have any client calls until late in the day. And I'm doing exactly what I love. And I'm making good money. And I literally end to end writing that. I wrote that when I was 24 on a beach in Thailand drinking Long Island iced teas with Dax Moy. And I was like, holy shit. So I honestly, no fucking lie. I was like, no
yeah.
lie. And I was like, oh my God. And do you know what I did? At the same time, I realized I hadn't updated it. I haven't updated it. So this week I'm going to the Atlantis, the Palm, the new one. I'm going to sit in the lobby, nice place. I don't drink anymore. I'll go and get like maybe a Long Island iced tea that's got no alcohol in it, Coke and rum or something, and then and just do the same thing again. I'm gonna remake my perfect day. But that exercise, dude, it was like that was transformational, man. I was like, it sounds like you very much live your perfect day quite frequently, right?
Yeah, frequent, not all the time, but frequently.
Mm.
And that's what Thailand. That was my 75th trip to Thailand in 23 years.
Wow,
Right.
wow,
So
yeah.
yeah, 75 trips, and this year I was there for 2 months at the beginning of the year. Went home for 2 months and went back out for 3 months. So it's look the most important thing, like regardless of what it is that people want for themselves, how they envisage their perfect day. It's not important that you're living it. It's important that you know what it is and that you are working toward it. And not just working toward it, but you've made a commitment to it,
Yeah.
right? Because most people haven't really, and that's why they haven't got what they want out of life. And a lot of people, I've been fortunate enough to have coached with some amazing people, like big names as well. I've done stuff with Jack Canfield. I've done stuff with Joe Vitale. I've done stuff with Neil Donald Walsh. I've done stuff with Bob Proctor. Or like directly with them as my mentors and coaches. All really, really, kind of good guys, and they all talk about the law of attraction, right? They've all got various aspects of the law of attraction. What most people forget about the law of attraction, though, is in order for the law of attraction to actually work, it's not just sit here and go, want it bad enough and keep thinking positive, happy, clappy thoughts until it comes true, right? The most important over the years, and this is the thing I wish that each one of those guys, though brilliant as they are, I wish each one of them had taught me it. I think probably Neil Donald Walsh was the closest to actually teaching me this. Is that in order for the law of attraction to work, you've got to understand and apply and actively use the law of rejection, right? And the law of rejection is
Mm.
is identifying and then kind of expelling all the things that are not what you want, right?
Wow.
I don't
Yeah.
want a job where I'm working 9 to 5, right? So when I first had my personal training studio, as you'll know, right, in your, when you were running yours, it's not 9 to. Everyone always talks about the 9 to 5. It's the 5 to 9 when you're a personal trainer, right? You're getting up at 5. You're getting to the gym at 6 or half 6, right? Kind of you're working through, and then you've got your gaps in the day. Or even if you're a really busy trainer and you can keep yourself on a conveyor belt, like your day just runs through. And I was like, this. I did it for a few years and I made brilliant money, and that was how I was able to open my studio, right? That was brilliant. but I realized it wasn't the life I wanted. I was like, okay, I'm not in a place where I want to give up all of the income that I'm earning from doing 5 to 9, but I don't want to, that's not the life I want for myself. So law of rejection has to kick in. Well, what are you going to do? Well, I'm going to stop working Sundays. Okay, cool. Did that and went, okay, but I don't want to lose any money. Okay, so what I'm used to earning Sunday, I'm now going to put my fees up across everything else so that kind of I've not actually lost out. I'm just working less but making the same. Okay, cool.
Mm.
Uh, Actually, Sundays is cool. Now I've got time with my family, but it still doesn't feel enough. Okay, I'm going to only work till lunchtime on Saturdays. I don't want to lose any money. So, right. And it was like, well, you're never there to tuck your kids into bed. You're never there to read them stories. You're never there to do, okay, right. So like Monday, Wednesday and Friday, PT is busier. So Tuesdays and Thursdays, I'm going to finish work by 6 and be at home by 7. Right. Like, but I don't want to lose any money. Right. And you start changing it. And that's how, that basically, as I started to build it, and then it became, well, I don't want to go in so I don't want to be getting up in the dark in the middle of winter to go and train a client. I don't want to do that anymore. Okay, so I don't, and now I don't want to start that early, but I don't want to lose any money, right? And gradually, that's how my fees kept increasing because I was rejecting the idea of losing money, and I was rejecting the idea of working more hours, and that's how I attracted clients who would pay me more money, right?
That's
and attracted the kind of people that were gonna be the right fit for me.
Yeah, because I remember
Right?
looking at it as like how does but the law I like the because like Hina I co-coach with Hina Khan who I actually interviewed on the podcast and she worked with Bob directly as well and she's always got these that's the law of rejection law of attraction or whatever and she always understands the universal principles behind what's going on and I love that. I never even thought about that though I've never even heard the law of rejection. Is
Yeah.
that a Dax Moy thing? Or is it?
Yeah. It's just something. It's like I'm big into words. I'm big into definitions, and
Yeah,
we're constantly looking at like love versus fear, indifference, anxiety
yeah,
versus this. Like, okay, everyone's talking about the law of attraction, but it doesn't seem to work for a lot of people, right? Like you've always got like the superstar kind of people, or the people that go, oh yeah, as soon as I started employing the law of attraction, this happened for me. Like that's great, but you're 1 in 10,000. What about the other 9,999? If say they're applying it, but isn't? I'm like, it's not that they're not conscientiously trying to apply it. It's just that they haven't rejected the opposite. You have to
yeah.
reject the opposite of what it is that you want. Otherwise, you're going to keep doing the same things.
That's actually that's something I'm going to commit to working on because I think that that's something I do. I still accept a lot of for example, I'll put my fees up, and then I'll still accept or not reject the lower fees. I'm like, that's really profound for me, even. And I can see the insight there. So that's I'm going to take that for myself, Dax. Anyone listening, this is just a bonus for you. That's just, yeah, Dax. I'm gonna respect your time and always love having the other. To be fair, Dax has been on every podcast that I've ever had and given so much value. And I think one of the things that I started my career as a coach with Dax, and I think that your mind map is probably one of the most foundational things a coach can do. Like honestly, that's where I started my training. I did NLP, then I was like, it helped me a lot. But then like doing mind map really got me to become a great like coach that understood language and the depth, like deep coaching, I would say. So I know you're opening that back up soon. Is that something that you're going to be doing?
Yep. Mindmapcoach.com is the mindmapcoach.com. I had to think about that one. That's the site, and yes, it's a different kind of coaching. I would like to say it's deeper, although I'm not comparing it to everybody else's. So like mind map is its own thing. It's based in neuroscience, and it's about look. One of the challenges that I often find with coaching, and particularly if you look at the timeline of a coaching relationship, and you'll have seen this for sure, is when people first become a client, they are excited and they're kind of they're hopeful and they're kind of hanging on every word that you say, and they're leaning into everything that you do. And then there comes it's a bit like a normal relationship, like a partner relationship. You know, there's all romance and sex and everything else going on, and then it kind of falls into maybe a little bit kind of a humdrum phase, and then it falls into sometimes, you know, slightly acrimonious, and then it's kind of phases like this. What very often happens in the beginnings of a coaching relationship is that people say that the thing they want most from you is accountability, right? They kind of, it's great, like, and I've got no problems with accountability per se when it's used skillfully, but most people are relying too heavily on the accountability part. And what happens is, because one of the biggest human drivers is freedom, our sense of freedom, right? And when you start messing with someone's sense of freedom, they start to fight you on it, right? You start to kind of literally get into these fights, whether it be fisticuffs or whether it be emotional fighting, right? Well, you go from being an ally and an advocate as a coach to eventually becoming an adversary, because what happens is the person starts to get into, first off, all the things they love about you. Oh, he holds me accountable, and he's brilliant, and he doesn't let me off the hook, and he kind of doesn't let me talk shit about things. Eventually, they start fighting you back on it. Now you're an adversary, and as soon as you get into that adversarial aspect, you know, unlike a normal relationship, people can walk anyway, right? But you know, in a paid relationship, all the people do is they go, screw this, I'm off. Like I'm not paying for it anymore, and they either leave actively, right? They go, no, Dax, no, Ben, I don't want to work with you anymore. This has got too much. Or they leave passively, and passively is more like they go, oh, I've really enjoyed working with you, but I can't really afford it anymore. There's some stuff that come up, and I'm right. 90% of people actually leave passively, right?
Yeah.
They'll make an excuse, but really, most of the people that are leaving, it's because the relationship became adversarial in the end, even if it wasn't intended to be, and even if your intention behind it wasn't. Right? You're just doing what they asked you to do, which was to hold them accountable. And so Mind Map answers a lot of those problems and deals with a lot of that, because it helps you to stay in the ally and advocate camp by providing you with the tools that doesn't mean that you don't ever use accountability, but does mean that it's not your primary tool. It's not the big stick that you're holding over the coaching relationship. There's more depth. There's more tools available to you, and by using neuroscience and by using kind of elements of human behavioral kind of mechanisms, right? So we lean into that a lot more. So it's a brilliant course, if I do say so myself.
Yeah, it's great. I still use your methods now, and like, you know, definitions, and like how setting people free from their definitions of things, and actually getting them to. I even like, you know, remember the define and refine a line stuff, like loads of things. Actually, one of the ones that came up the other day was the what was it, like it's explaining how myelination happens for someone. And I was explaining it to someone, like, it's this guy I was speaking to on a call, and I was like, do you know actually how behavior change actually works? And I could articulate as a coach the science, not only the biology, but the physiology and the mechanics of behavior change. And he was like, oh my God, that's fascinating. And understanding it at that level helped him make his behavior change, because he wanted to know that. And I was like, oh yeah, I got that from you. So yeah, I can endorse that. Dax, I'll be putting that in the links for this on Spotify. It's released on Spotify. It's across all major channels. If you've enjoyed the conversation with Dax today, please feel free to like the podcast, love the podcast, give us a review, reach out to Dax. All of his links will be in the channel. Are you still hanging out on Facebook and Instagram? Where can people find you?
I'm not as active on them all. Like, basically, I mean, that was another rule for myself, right? Which, you know, what do I want success to look like and all the rest of it. And I realized that I was spending a lot of time kind of creating content, and not, you know, I love creating content, but now my rule for myself is I show up when I want to. Right? I'm not a guy who kind of feels that there's I haven't posted this week. Sometimes I might go weeks without posting. Other times I might post 4 things in a day. It really just depends on how I feel and what I'm wanting to do. But I've left such a massive paper trail of content over the years anyway. Like I say, quarter of a century
it's
of,
not like
of
it's not
producing
like there
content.
isn't enough bit to read. Like honestly, you always get so much value from reading your stuff, and I love what you do differently is that you post it in the things that you post about. You're never defaming. You're never trampling over someone. It's a really refreshing way to think, and it's always easy to read. So honestly, it's
Look,
going to come back to
just
what I said
on
at the
that,
start.
what I'll say there is part of the reason why I do that is because I can never be sure that I'm right and other people are wrong. Right? I can never
Yeah,
be sure. Right? I look at them. Some people might even be saying stuff that actually it winds me up, irritates me, pisses me off, or tickles my kind of disgust elements. Right? And I go, that is fucking disgusting. Right? And I still can't be 100% sure that I'm the one who's right and they're the one who's wrong. I can't be sure. Right?
yeah,
So all I can ever do is say, my job is to show up in the world as the very best Dax Moy that I possibly can be, and let everybody else do that as well. And kind of, I think, just I know you just kind of closed out the episode, but just in closing here, it's one of the big reasons why I think we are in so much trouble socially these days is because people claim everything to be hate speech, people claim everything to be offensive, just be offended, just be pissed off, just be aggravated, but just realize you're going to post some stuff that is going to piss off, aggravate, and offend other people as well. Just let people
yeah.
get on with life.
Yeah, no,
Let people get on with
I respect that you've always been like that, and that's what I've admired about like following you and doing the stuff that you've done. So, um, honestly, like I said at the start of the episode, really grateful to you, Dax. Honestly, sometimes we forget the ripple effect we have, and even just having this conversation, I realize how much value I've had from the experiences that I've invested with you, and grateful. And I'd definitely have you back on again if you want to come and talk about something else in
Absolutely,
a mile
anytime.
deep. Thank you, brother.
I'll book another call for about an hour from now. I'll just go back into your booking thing.
Yeah, man. Yeah. I'll go then. I got time.
Thanks for having
Thank
me
you.
on, Matt. I've really enjoyed it. I always enjoy and respect and appreciate people that just allow me to come on and spew my madness.
Magic. Thank
My
you,
mad
guys.
ramblings.